Hello, Susie.
Hi, Joe.
Hello, welcome to episode 18 of the Brand Spotlight. We are streaming live on YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and we will be repurposed as an audio podcast on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you hear, and on your favorite podcast app. Just search the Brand Spotlight, and we should be there. Today is episode 18, and we are interviewing Suzie Carpenter of Savors by Suzie and we will learn all about her grain-free pretzels in a few moments. Thank you so much to the audience once again. I also, as usual, this show is sponsored by the agency I've been building up over the last several years. It's called Brands Connect. That's brands with a Z, and we focus on marketing campaigns. We craft boutique and custom marketing campaigns for brands. Without further ado, let's get right into episode 18 of the Brand Spotlight. Thank you so much. If you are following on social media, you will have noticed that we are doing a contest we're doing a giveaway, and we will give away a Have It All variety pack of the Savors by Suzie. Oh, wow.
Gotta have it all. That's what it's called. Gotta have it all.
So at the end of the interview, Suzie will pick one comment. You could comment on Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, or YouTube Live. It all comes to us, and we're able to see it all. Without further ado, let's get right in. How are you today, Suzie?
Terrific. Thanks, Joe. This is an exciting time.
Thank you.
Back to school, back to fall, lots of good things happening right now. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure. Thank you so much for coming on again. And as our signature question, the opening question, in a sentence or two, how would you define your brand?
Well, our brand passion, Savor by Suzie, our brand passion comes from our journey. It comes from our journey with autism, with our daughter, and food allergies, autoimmune disease, and really learning that gut-brain connection. So that's really the core of who we are, is that journey. And we incorporate that in not just our products, but our practices, our people. And so neurodiversity is a big part of what we do, in addition to having an allergen-friendly product line.
Okay, because I looked at the line, I see grain-free pretzels. I know allergens is all the rage these days, but it sounds like you have much more of a story and much more of a mission. It's not just another product on the marketplace. It's something that you're really working to really share your journey and really share products that solve pain points within your journey. So that's
absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
That's really exciting. So to cap it off, it really started with your journey with your daughter. You mentioned she was diagnosed with autism, and that you ended up being, I guess, sensitive, or she was sensitive to different allergens, and you created a product.
Yeah, so basically our family has been in the business of baking pretzels for over 40 years. She was diagnosed with autism a little over 20 years ago. And then she was diagnosed with celiac disease and other food allergies, sensitivities, and her doctor recommended a grain-free diet. I became her partner on that journey and did the exact same diet as she was doing. We ate the same things, followed the same protocols, and it really was incredibly eye-opening for me, not just to watch her symptoms improve, but to watch my own symptoms improve. So we've been following a grain-free diet for over 20 years. And that definitely is the inspiration for our brand. You've seen the growing market for grain-free products and gluten-free products. It's not going away. It's getting stronger. You see a strong presence in social media of people who are grain-free and gluten-free, allergen-friendly. You see lots of products out on the market as well. For us, we actually made our innovations a big part of what we've done here, because we did install a dedicated gluten-free line in our factory, and we have that is a 100% dedicated gluten-free line. And 3 years ago this week, we made our first run of our grain-free pretzel. So Super proud of our team. As I said, it's an exciting time, looking back and looking ahead.
Wow. So we will get a little bit more later into the origin story, but I do want to recap a little bit about what you said. You actually went on the journey along with your daughter and eventually ran it through the production line. You did mention earlier that your family was in the business for many years, so I assume that was part of it, etc. And yeah, that's an amazing story. Without getting into the origin story just yet, what are the current products you have? Do you focus exclusively on pretzels currently?
Yes, so we are exclusively focused on pretzels currently. We have a base pretzel. That's our grain-free pretzel made with cassava flour, and it is top 9 allergen friendly. It's soy-free, sesame-free, in addition to, all of the other allergens. So it's the core pretzel, and then we coat it in recipes that I've created. So we have a spicy pretzel that is a combination of spices. It's just a little bit spicy. And then we have a roasted garlic and herb. It's actually a combination again of spices that include oregano, cumin, turmeric. So while it's named garlic, it's very deep in flavor. And then we have our original sea salt. That's our top seller. That's the blue bag with a blue banner. And then we have our 2 sweet ones, which is milk chocolate, which is still gluten-free and grain-free. And then we have our dark chocolate, which is also vegan. So everything in the line is vegan except for the milk chocolate. And the dark chocolate is vegan in addition to being soy-free and low sugar. So this is really my baby. They're all my babies, but the dark chocolate, I was super excited when we found the chocolate that we had robed these pretzels in because it's got all the attributes that I would look for in a chocolate. So tastes delicious, and it is our number 2 top seller.
Wow, that's fascinating that you just started 3 years ago and you already have so many different flavors. I do want to get into something you said before. Use the word, I think, neurodivergent.
Uh-huh.
Could you explain what that is?
Absolutely. So neurodiversity, we look at it as though, we are welcoming into wherever we have locations, workplace locations, because we have 2 factories and a headquarters office building where I am. We invite in people from the community from different need groups, if you will, but the autistic adult population being a large underemployed population. So, in our daughter having autism, we have a lot of compassion, a lot of experience, and a lot of desire to help that community in addition to other communities as well. But so neurodiversity is really about the diversity of brain types. So somebody with autism might just work in a different way. They're typically more visual. They typically process information differently. So we have a fulfillment center that's 100% employed by neurodiverse employees. So they have different, not to get too much into the labels, I tend to talk about autism the most just because that is our core, but we have other folks in different need groups that are also there. So it offers them a workplace opportunity, whether they're a student or an adult looking for a job, and then from there they can decide if they want to stay on. And for us, I always say to our team and to them, they're teaching us as much as we are teaching them. So it's a huge part of who we are and what's important to us. Our core values, our passion, our mission stems from that place and extends out beyond that place. In everything that we do, our logo, all the things that we create, we always keep that in mind.
Cool. Wow, that's fascinating. And it's amazing that you found a way to really take your company and not just sell it on the marketplace, but use it to really impact your mission, not just in the marketplace, but in how you service the company.
Right. So every order, anybody that goes to savorbysuzie.com and places an order, every order is supporting an adult with autism. So because they're our fulfillment team. So, we tell people that all the time. You can find our products on Amazon and in stores and whatnot. But when you go to our website and either subscribe and or place an order, you're supporting that team. So we're super grateful for that.
That's amazing. I also noticed you are kosher. That's amazing for me as
Yeah.
I'm on a kosher diet. So thank you for that.
That's also an important trait that we like to always honor. Yeah. The kosher dairy is for the milk, but yeah, the rest are all. Yep.
Yeah, so that's amazing. And before we delve into the origin story, where can we buy your products?
So as I mentioned, our website, Savor by Suzie, is a great place to go because you are supporting those individuals when you place orders, and they are sitting there in the fulfillment center waiting for orders to come in, so they're ready. And then you can also find us. We have a store finder on that website. So when you go to the website, you'll go to the store finder and you can type in your location, or if you're traveling, the location you're going to be, and see what stores we're in that area. In addition, the Amazon is a huge presence. Only we don't have our chocolate items on Amazon. So you can pretty much only get those on our website or a few other websites that carry them, like Hive.
Are you in any shops?
Yeah, so if you go to the store finder on our website, depending on where you live, you just type in your zip code or the name of your town, and it will list the stores that we're in. So our focus has been predominantly in the Northeast, but we are launching in Kroger and CVS this month, and a few other West Coast stores, and Florida. So we're starting to sort of go west and south.
Amazing. I will share the picture of your variety pack right now
Perfect.
because we are running a campaign. We're running a giveaway, and we will pick one commenter. We're still waiting for the comments to go in, and we'll read them on the screen. We're picking one commenter that we will choose, and they will win this variety pack, and we will ship them. Really, Savor by Suzie has been gracious enough to ship them this variety pack. Oh wow, we got one comment in.
Good job.
Yeah, does it show it on the overlay? Yeah, the
Yes, she
flavors
says
look
favorite.
good. Devora Vogel, thank you so much for the comment. And I will remove it from the screen. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us a really basic overview of your grain-free pretzels. There are still some more questions that I have. You did mention they're not made out of grain. What does it mean that they're grain-free?
So grain-free just means there's no rice. So a lot of gluten-free ingredients are still grains. So grain-free is kind of like taking gluten-free to the next level in terms of the anti-inflammatory properties of a grain-free diet, in terms of boosting the immune system and digestive health. So the body's ability to digest grains is sometimes compromised in people who have celiac disease or other digestive or autoimmune problems. So to actually go to that next level, which is what our doctor recommended 20 years ago, and go grain free, really can give you that extra boost to feel your best. So there's a lot of different ingredients that can be used, but typically the cassava flour is what we have discovered to be the best for making the pretzel. So cassava is a grain-free root vegetable, is really what it is, that has been turned into a flour.
Let me ask you something. I am used to the traditional pretzels, and I get full when I have a pretzel. A lot of times with the grain-free alternatives, aside for some of them being very unhealthy, I don't normally get as full. What do you experience? What is your experience with the grain-free pretzels?
Exactly the same. I would say exactly the same. So with gluten-free, which is often made with corn or rice or other grains, you can still have that sensation of feeling a little bloated or feeling a little more full than you'd like to feel after eating the product. And what grain-free offers is the sort of expedited digestive process, so the body can more quickly and easily digest it. Therefore, you don't have that bloated, full feeling after you eat it.
And the cassava flour you mentioned, so that's made out of the cassava is a vegetable?
Correct. Yeah. Like it's like a carrot. It's a root vegetable. It grows under the ground.
Oh wow. And where are where are the farms that produce these vegetables?
Yeah. So it's very prevalent in South America, and then also in the Far East. Both of those areas are sort of cassava flour growing areas.
Cool. Wow. You told us so much about the actual product. I can't wait to get my hands on it and taste it. You said I'm currently in the West Coast, and you said you are making it to the West Coast. So I'll be excited. I'll be excited to try
Yeah.
it soon. Now I want to transition to your origin story. You did tell us a lot about the origin story. 20 years ago, your daughter was diagnosed with autism. Eventually, she was also diagnosed with, I think it was
Correct.
celiac, and then your doctor recommended a grain-free diet 20 years ago, which must have been very, very new, innovative, and probably sounded crazy 20 years ago, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you went along with the journey. You did it for yourself. Not only did it help your daughter, you also felt a lot better going through a grain-free diet. So could you tell us a little bit more about that journey and fill in all the holes?
Yeah. So the grain-free diet that we started 20 years ago was very strict. It was called the specific carbohydrate diet. So there's lots of things you're supposed to avoid, including grains. But the science behind the diet is to, again, alleviate the digestive system. And sometimes when the digestive system isn't digesting foods, the foods can kind of stick around and cause digestive problems. Sometimes people who have flatulence and other issues, it's because the food isn't being digested and it's kind of sitting in there. So the idea is any chemical structure of a food that is more simple, it can pass through the digestive system easier and quicker. And then of course you also want to assimilate nutrients. So the more you can make that process work, the better you're going to feel, the more energy you're going to have, the more healthier you're going to feel, you're going to sleep better. Even skin issues, mood issues are all impacted by these foods that we're eating. So we were sort of pioneers with this grain-free movement. There weren't a lot of people that we knew that were eating diets in this kind of way, and there weren't a lot of products on the market either. So a lot of the, things that I was making for us were from scratch. And it completely changed my way of looking at food and also preparing food. And in the beginning, I will not lie, in the beginning, it was very hard to make every single thing, including ketchup and potato chips and sausages, you name it, from scratch. But what was really beautiful and what happened was I was able to develop a deeper connection to food, how it made me feel, but also where it came from, like Mother Earth, right? And feeling grounded by those foods and understanding those foods and how they impacted me. And that relationship just became more, intimate and more productive, really, in order to say that we could help each other more. So, and I became a better cook because I learned how to just cook intuitively. So I really learned how to listen to my body and also just and trust and say, okay, I can make something from these three things instead of having to take a recipe that had 10 things and try to figure out how to make it when I couldn't use three of those things. So my cooking completely shifted and I just learned how to cook from what we could have instead of trying to cook recipes that, again, had things we couldn't eat. So that really opened up a lot of possibilities for us in our health, in addition to our brain health, our happiness, our energy. And then again, just that connection, with food and how, that energetics of food and how you feel when you eat something that's prepared in such a way versus another way. So energetics is a big part of what we do as well. So wanting people to feel good energy from the food that they eat. So I think, there's a lot of information out there on the grain-free diet and there's pros and cons. You still have to balance it by getting fiber and things like that. But I went, back to school, studied nutrition theories, worked with some doctors and coached clients prior to this whole journey around this process to help them to realize a lot of people just didn't know that they could feel better by simply changing, swapping out a few foods. And to create something that's delicious and better for you, was absolutely our goal. Creating something that is innovative and that is safe for the whole household, but still tastes delicious. That was our goal. And I'm super proud of our team because we feel that we have definitely accomplished that.
That's a great story, and I still want to dig a little bit deeper into it. Aside for the fact that you're making the grain-free diet sound appealing, I'm getting nervous. I'll be convinced by the end of the show.
Let me know.
In the
Certainly
meantime,
not, whatever works. Everybody has their own, everybody has, I'm a big believer in bio individuality, and you have to do what's right for your body, even if it's hard. But that's what we're here for, is to create options.
I'll read another comment from Beatrice. Amazing. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Susie will be doing a giveaway with a variety pack, have it all packed, so you get to try all the different flavors, shipped directly to you. All you have to do is comment, and we'll choose one of the commenters in the giveaway. We are a relatively new show, so we don't get that many comments, so you do have a pretty high chance of winning. So come and join and comment. In
Say
the
hi.
meantime, say whatever you want. Last time we had someone just putting emojis on, and you know what? That's cool too, because that creates engagement and that helps the show grow.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you get a chance to try these grain-free pretzels. You'll probably want to order them anyways by the end of the show. Beatrice is again. Hello. I guess she took your advice. I do want to go back into your story a little bit. So it sounds like you did have a long journey before Favor by Suzie, and your first step in the marketplace wasn't creating a product, but really going through the journey, becoming a cook, becoming a grain-free cook, and really specializing in that, eventually coaching people, and then eventually throughout that journey, the current end product is Favors by Suzie. But I want to hear a little bit about those early days. I would imagine when your doctor told you that, at whatever point you came to terms with that, that's what you're going to do. I would imagine there were not grain-free cookbooks in the marketplace at that time.
Correct. Well, the diet was based off of a book. And that book was an educational book on the grain-free diet. And it's called Breaking the Vicious Cycle. And there were some recipes in that cookbook. The challenging thing for us was that our daughter Kelly also had an allergy to eggs, and there was a lot of eggs in the beginning diet. So that was where I was, again, I'm not gonna lie, like I was completely overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was gonna make for the next meal. It was very stressful. But again, once we got through the stress and kind of opening up and learning and understanding to develop that relationship with food, and teaching her, like I eventually we got to the place where I could teach her to listen to her body too, and she could say, I feel so much better when I eat this way. It eased up a lot of the stress. But with autism, there's a lot of sensory issues, and so if the texture of food is funky, or very very sensitive to flavors, so I could make something and Kelly would like spit it out because she didn't like the texture. So a texture of a Purdue chicken nugget, for example, would be very different than if I made a homemade chicken nugget using crushed almonds, right? And so she noticed those texture differences and it bothered her. So we had to work through a lot of those, nuances of the diet. For some reason, I to this day, I can't give credit to anything other than my intuition, just kept saying, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Because as I said already, probably 10 times, it was challenging. So, but my intuition was very strong about this. And so we just stuck it out. And I'm just so glad we did. It doesn't work for everybody because it's a lot of work. But to your point, in today's world, you can find not only products on the market, bone broths and grain-free products, that use the cassava flour and or otherwise. You also have restaurants that serve foods this way or tell you what's on the menu, and and vegan helps because vegan is dairy-free and egg-free. So, people who have to be off dairy and eggs, it really helps them to know, okay, something's vegan and gluten-free, then they're usually pretty good. So, Yeah, so, a lot of challenges in the early years. It probably I would say, to be honest, it took at least a year to get feeling confident on the diet and feeling like, "Okay, I got this." And then from there, kind of coasting a little bit more.
If I may ask, how serious were the issues in the beginning?
Well, vomiting, a lot of, like, gut issues, so, diarrhea, vomiting, no sleeping, like, horrible insomnia, and, a lot of, like, irritability and anger, that are somewhat common with autism. In today's world, I believe that the percentage of people who have autism that have gut issues is quite high. It could be as high as 85%. So that gut, we know so much more about that gut brain connection today. There's some incredible books out there. The Wheat Belly Diet by William Davis was a big one. Dr. David Perlmutter, who came out with the grain, I think he called it the grain brain connection. Those two books are phenomenal. Mark Hyman talks about it. These are big time doctors that have embraced this topic and educated the public about the benefits of changing your diet and leaning into what's going to work best for your body. And sometimes the only thing you can do is take something away, eliminate a food for a period of time, or go on an elimination diet that takes away all the triggers, so that you can actually feel in your body the benefits. People used to say to me a lot, and they still do, "Well, I tried a gluten-free diet. I didn't feel any better." And my response would be like, "Good for you. I'm really happy that you did that and you gave it a chance." But because food intolerances can be pervasive, you can have anywhere from 10 to 30. You could give up gluten, but your body's still having trouble with soy or corn or raspberries or jalapenos or, all kinds of things that you don't know about unless you do some kind of a test, or an elimination. Therefore, you take away one food thinking you go and try a gluten-free diet or, dairy-free, whatever it might be, and you don't feel a whole lot better because your body hasn't gotten rid of the other foods that are also triggers. So not to be, Debbie Downer or to sound too complicated. It's just, I think it's important to mention, because some people will say, "Well, I tried that and I didn't feel any better." And, I'm sorry if you didn't feel better, but maybe you might want to ask for some support, or just do some testing around that to see if there's something that's missing, So that's my advice on that one.
Wow. Now, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and it really sounds like you really took it very, very seriously in the beginning. My my question
Definitely.
my question is, today you go to a bookstore, you go to a restaurant where we see so much messaging around the gut brain health connection, around how grains cause bloating, cause all sorts of symptoms. Then, like we mentioned before, it wasn't common messaging all around. How did you know to take your doctor seriously? Did you trust your doctor right away, or was there an acceptance curve?
There was a freak out curve. I trusted our doctor implicitly, but it was, kind of like a, how the hell do I do this? And like I said earlier, without the eggs and other foods, what I worried about was she, because we felt worse before we felt better. Am I harming us by doing this? Like, maybe the science is such that if you take these foods away, you feel better. But what if I'm actually doing harm by doing this? And so, fortunately, this doctor put us in touch with other moms and families that were doing the diet so we could talk to each other. This was like right at the beginning of the internet. So, there wasn't Facebook groups and, other ways to access each other like there is today. But fortunately, he had the wherewithal to do that so we could talk to each other and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling in this area," or, "This is what's happening to us. We don't feel good." And they would say, "There's a period your body goes through at 3 months where you don't feel good. It's like a dip. You feel really good, then you don't feel good. Then you feel really good, and you don't feel good." And that's part of the process. So learning, okay, this is just part of the body's process of pretty much detoxing. When you eliminate sugar and grains and all kinds of things that your body's used to having, it's almost like a withdrawal. And so you just don't feel great. And that's not true for everybody, but it can be true for most people. So I did completely trust our doctor. He shared with us success stories of other patients that had done really well with the diet. And I read the book about 10 times before we started to make sure I understood the science, and it made a lot of sense. So, I went in wholeheartedly. It was just the practicality of the situation that was challenging.
Was your doctor an innovator in that way, or that was the common knowledge for people struggling with what your daughter was struggling with?
No, you're right. He was an innovator. Yeah, because this was a while ago. Yeah. Um, so there's also different groups of doctors that have served the autism community that have sort of like think tanks, and they come up with ideas that will help, people with autism. And he was a part of that. And so, that was something that we as in the autism community felt was really important and helpful, because we were all struggling, to get help with our children's behaviors, whether it was not sleeping at night or having digestive issues, behavior issues. What can we do to help them beyond the therapies like behavior therapy, ABA, or occupational therapy, speech therapy? All of these things are good. It's very overwhelming for families with autism, extremely overwhelming. And it unfortunately does not go away. So that's why at our company, Savor by Suzie, we are committed to supporting autistic adults, in the workplace and beyond. We're just getting going. We have a lot of work to do. We're learning. We're open to people helping us, people giving us feedback, and people who are interested in doing the same in their workplace, reach out. We've contacted all kinds of professional organizations and universities that we've spoken with. And what we found is just really kind of taking all of that, but really paving our own path, because, we have to work within our business structure, to do this. So it's again, such a big part of who we are and what we do and what we believe in. Our core values are inclusivity, accessibility, compassion, so it's so important that, again, we incorporate that in everything that we do. And so building a more compassionate, inclusive workplace is one of our goals. It's super important. And so, yeah.
You did mention you come from a family where you were in the business of baking, if I heard that correctly.
Yeah.
How did that impact you? Did you feel like you had to make a massive sacrifice?
Well, so we co-pack or co-manufacture products for other people. So, but when we saw, the journey of our family and how this was, a gluten-free, grain-free diet was impacting our family, we knew there was something to it, but it wasn't really, popular until, I would say, definitely, you know, 2015 maybe. I'm not sure if I would how to put a number to that, but more recently is what I should say. So, the timing of launching a product line today is much more accessible and relatable than it would have been 20 years ago. So, we also didn't have the technology, and we also didn't have the products. So cassava flour is relatively new. People like that's why gluten-free pretzels have traditionally been made with corn and soy and sugar, because they're trying really hard to make it taste good and taste like a pretzel, and it's nearly impossible to do. We've created a gluten-free, grain-free pretzel made with cassava that actually tastes, we think, better than a real pretzel, and we hear that all the time from people. So the technology and the innovation from the, Mother Earth, thank you, Mother Earth, to have farmers and people be able to say, try this plant, try this flower, see if this works. That's the kind of stuff that I really dig is, that innovation and trying different ingredients. That's how we came up with our flavors, just in my kitchen, messing with different spices and trying to come up with something that almost, to me, it feels like I'm serving a meal. It's like the ingredients I would use for a marinade, so that you get a more well-rounded end product that leaves you feeling that energized, happy, better for you feeling, rather than that sort of lagging, tired feeling.
Wow, I am curious about the journey of the cassava flour, how you found it, etc. But before that, you did mention that after becoming an expert in the grain-free diet, in cooking and baking a grain-free diet, you did go back to school and you started coaching people. At what point did you decide, I've done a tremendous amount for my family, but I want to take it to the next level and do it professionally and help others?
Great question. I actually had friends telling me that. I became known within our community as, this fanatical fanatical mother who was impacting her child's health and happiness and performance with diet. And I was, I would not, if I went to somebody's house for dinner, I would not eat the foods if it wasn't in alignment with our diet, which some people would perceive as being rude. But for me, I was like, this is, why should I eat something that's going to make me feel sick, or that's going to, interrupt this path that we're on? But my point was that because I was out in the community eating that way, people would be like, wow, she's really committed. Wow, she's really done something else with her daughter. So friends and family would tell me, you need to help other people, because they would see other people struggling. And they would say, what you've done is something that maybe could help other people. Why don't you try to, see if you can help other people? From my standpoint, I just was curious to learn more because I knew there was something to it. And when I started and I saw the impact it had on Kelly, I said to myself, she can't be the only one. I'm like, she can't be the only one. So, and then it was impacting me positively. I said, well,
I'm just
I
going to
can't be the
interrupt.
only. Yeah.
Kelly, we didn't hear about Kelly yet, or maybe we did.
Oh yeah, sure. No, Kelly. Yeah, Kelly's our daughter with autism. She's 26 now, and she's our reason for being. She's really our reason for being, and I tell her that all the time. And she works for us. She actually had another part-time job, but we have become so busy. She's now working full-time for us as our marketing assistant and fulfillment motivator. She has a very specific system that she uses to pack our products. So again, when you get your products from our website, Savor by Suzie, they take great care in how they package everything. So if your product arrives in not good condition, it's actually probably because of UPS, not because of us. But they really do. They take their time. They package everything, carefully, and that's really because of Kelly. She has a strong sense of energy, and she wants the consumer to have when they receive their package, to have a positive experience of feeling really good energy from that product. So yeah, she's a big part of what we do, who we are, and as I said earlier, she's teaching us. They're teaching us every day something new, something we need to know, a reminder of something, and it's so important to have that be a part of who we are and continue to be a part of who we are, because it is what fuels our passion. Not just the fact that we have what we think is the best tasting pretzel on the market that just happens to also be gluten and grain free, but that we have a mission to create a more compassionate workforce, that we want to bring autistic adults into the workforce, and we want that to spread beyond Savor by Suzie. We haven't gotten there yet because we haven't developed a model that we can transfer to other companies, but we hope that people inquire about that. So we really do. It's such a big part of how the world is changing and what's happening in the world today. So yeah, that's
So
our
I just want to go
inspiration.
back to the thing we were discussing. So I asked you, at what point did you want to take it from doing everything you could and being DIY educated, so to speak, and going to school and turning it into a profession, helping and coaching people? You mentioned that people would just see you uh, being so strict on your diet, people in the neighborhood, that they would ask you questions, and then on your end, you really wanted to learn more and more and more. And it sounds like you felt going the schooling route would help that. Could we learn more about that process?
Sure, yeah. So, well, at the time that I decided to go back to school, the most accessible program for me and my lifestyle, given that I had at that point in time, I guess maybe 10-year-old, or yeah, daughter with autism, and another daughter as well. I ended up doing a program that I traveled on the weekends for the program, and it was in New York City, and I lived in Pennsylvania, so it was the best for me. My husband could watch my children while I, went to school on the weekends. So it was not a clinical program. It was more like a dietary theory, health coaching. Today, there's a lot of these health coaching programs. That's really what the qualifications were. And then I went on to get a functional nutrition like coaching degree as well. I did some other programs to help enhance that. I also worked with some functional nutrition doctors that were super. I worked for I forget what the foundation is called right now, but I worked with them to make meals, provide meals, and I learned a lot from those doctors because I was traveling to all their conferences and learning from them as well. So a lot of, as you said, DIY learning, but also all that kind of learning. So not in clinical environments. It was all private coaching type situations. But a lot of people would come to me through word of mouth. A lot of people would come to me because they'd say, I've been to the doctor and they haven't been able to help me. My stomach's really bothering me. And I could actually, in my practice, it was a private practice, I could do food testing. So I had a company that I used for the food testing, and a lot of people did that food testing, and it was life changing. They would say, I had no idea had these reactions to these foods. I feel so much better without these foods. So I would do the testing or do an elimination diet with them, help them with that process, and then help them with the results, help them craft a diet that would match their needs. Blood type is another diet. So there's so many different avenues, but I love that stuff. Like I love the challenge and the different, like just being curious and peeling back the layers and trying to figure things out. No judgment, none of that, but just like curiosity all the time, curiosity around, what's going on. And I incorporate that in all of our business meetings as well. Sometimes I drive our team crazy, but I'm constantly asking questions. I'm constantly kind of trying to figure out, well, the why, what's the why behind it? What can we do about it? It's about the possibilities. Can we do something else instead? Can we try this approach? And not to say that it's perfect, but it's who I am. It's bringing who you are to the table and saying, this is who I am. This is how I think. This is what the passion is behind the brand. So we try to incorporate that as much as we can.
Yeah, this interview is making me very, very curious. I'm very curious about the food test. We still have to work on the cassava flour, the food test. But I just want to just go in order. Before that, the other thing is there are many health coaching programs. To me, I don't know if I'm correct, but it sounds like it's very unregulated. Anybody could just advertise that they're doing a health program. How did you vet them and find that that they were worth it for you to take? How did you know they were
Yeah.
credible, etc.?
Yeah, no, great question. So the program that I did at the time, it was called Integrative Nutrition, and it was in New York, and it was very popular. And then I got certified through a coaching, organization. I forget the name of it at this time, but you had to pass a test. And even when I was at the Integrative Nutrition, we had tests, and we had to share our client notes and things like that, so they could sort of watch the processes that we were doing. So while I agree, I think it is unregulated, there are regulations within the industry that I followed that I think, are important to look for if you're hiring somebody. Do they have that certificate? Did they have to pass that test? Do they have the insurance? I had the medical insurance so that if a client had a problem, I had coverage. So different business strategies that you need to do and put into place if you're a coach to protect yourself and to protect others. My goal was always to help other people, but I certainly, would never, I feel horrible if anybody ever, had a problem. But, and that's also why I worked with doctors, so that I could have the support of, the doctor saying, yes, this is the approach. Yes, this works well for this. And I would say, if I have a client like this, what should I do? So I had that direct relationship with doctors that knew a lot about these types of dietary theories and the gut brain connection. So I felt like I was strongly backed. So that helped a lot too. But yes, if you're going out to try to find somebody, definitely check out the credentials, check out the references, and make sure you're in good hands.
How did you know that in I think it was integrated nutrition? How did you know that was a credible institution?
Well, they had all their credentials and things like that, on their website, and they did like an interview where they went over all of that stuff. So, you know, I, that's what I did. I mean, I just knew, there's some people that were coaches that then went and developed coaching programs, um, sort of mimicking the same model, a little bit of a different approach, but they, yeah, I just trusted that what they were telling me was the truth. So, and I got a lot out of it. I learned a lot, and that was what was important to me, that I learned a lot. So, and then taking it to the next level and doing some other programs as well to help supplement was important. Yeah.
You mentioned you had a relationship with doctors, so you felt you were backed up on the medical end. Can you tell us a little bit about those relationships?
Yeah, so we would just work together where I could ask them about different client needs and run ideas by them. So, prior to COVID, I mean, this is earlier on, but we were still able to do a lot of this virtually. So it was just a great way to be supported and to support the client. And I could have got to be known for that. So I had doctors reaching out to me asking if I would work in their office and things like that, just as a service to their clients. So it just really was honoring. It's like everything that we do. It's honoring, people. It's honoring people and practices and being in integrity. As I said earlier, our core values. Integrity, compassion, accessibility, and just continuing to do that over and over and over again, and learning and being curious. And we're super important for us that we're non-judgmental, that we have that inspiration for people, and people get funny about food. It's an emotional relationship that we have with food. So if you love chocolate, but you want to be healthier, this is a low sugar dark chocolate that's vegan, no soy, better for you ingredients. So for me, this is like what I would love to do, is if somebody felt they needed that or their body was saying they needed that, let's find that better for you option. So you don't have to feel deprived. That's the key. And then with the inclusivity, it's, oh, okay, everybody can have this, your whole household or your whole school. I mean, we're allergen friendly. We have a dedicated nut-free facility. So a dedicated sesame-free facility, those are big allergens for people. It means a lot to people to know, okay, your facility, that you make your own products in your own facility, and it's a dedicated nut-free, sesame-free facility. That's why we say allergen friendly, because those things are super duper important to us. Having the customer feel that we are in integrity and they can trust us is so important.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm curious about the food test. Before that, I actually the doctor. Just want to clarify one point. So a lot of these doctors were your clients' private doctors.
Um, will you say that again? I'm sorry. The
Were
doctors
the
were?
doctors that you had relationships with, they were your clients' private doctors?
No, they were just, doctors that got to know me and wanted to work with me, yeah, and that I wanted to work with. So they were not necessarily my clients' doctors. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't, yeah. So, do you have a personal interest in this part of the story, or does your audience, do you think, have a interest in this topic?
I'll tell you what, when I meet doctors, for the most part, they're very, very medically trained, very, very not looking outside the box. In general, I won't say always. They're generally very busy with their clients, and I'm surprised that they would give the time of day to somebody who's going to take a more
Help.
nutrition approach.
Yeah, these were more functional medicine doctors, and the functional medicine doctor is of the mind frame of, kind of getting to the root of the problem. So, and peeling back layers and kind of discovering, right? So that curiosity is a big part of a functional medicine doctor practice, is, looking at things that, how all the systems are interrelated, you know? if you have, I have AFib because I have hyperthyroidism, but they might treat my AFib without looking at my hyperthyroidism. It's looking at how everything's all connected, and that gut-brain connection is so important. So looking at healing the gut can help impact the brain and how all the systems work together. So I think in a nutshell, that's really what I loved about that. And it's not always accessible. That's the hard part, but is becoming more accessible in today's world. And I think a lot of doctors are becoming more open to that. But nutrition and dietary theory, I would agree, hasn't been a strong suit for a lot of more conventional doctors. And that's why I had a lot of clients coming to me, because they would say, I've been to the doctor, but I'm not getting any relief. What do I do? Dietitians, nutritionists are definitely a great place to go for anybody. They can do this food testing. They can help with elimination diets. They typically have a lot of compassion and spend time with people. So I would highly recommend that for people who want like a real strong, more clinical, but dietary intervention.
So it sounds like you really started off with the functional medicine doctors or the functional doctors who take a much more holistic approach.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, that's an amazing story. I just want to remind the audience that we will be doing a giveaway with the variety pack. I'll show it right on the screen. It's, I think, 5 or 6 flavors. How many flavors?
5.
5 flavors, and we'll be selecting one commenter. So please comment. You actually have pretty high chances at this point. We're a relatively new show, so we don't get too many comments yet. But join us, comment, and you have a chance of winning. We are with Suzie Carpenter of Savor by Suzie grain-free pretzels. She just shared her journey with us. A lot of the journey up to the part of creating the product. We're still deep into the journey though. I want to know what the food test entails. What is it? Is it your company, a third party company?
And it's not my company. Yeah, no, it's third party. I have nothing to do with that company. There's several different companies that do it. If you Google food sensitivity testing, you'll see a bunch of companies. Functional medicine doctors usually have a company that they like, that they recommend. I was using a company called Alcat. There's other ones out there though that are also equally or as good. Some of them you do your own little finger prick with the blood, and some you have to go to a lab. I personally felt that the going to the lab was, a more effective. They take it with Alcat, they take that blood and they send it to Alcat's lab, as opposed to you pricking your finger and putting the blood on a piece of paper, and then that tells you. But you can still get some insight. So yeah, again, I would recommend going to a dietitian or a nutritionist or a functional medicine doctor and have them give you that advice. But sometimes they say they don't think that it's as impactful. It gets a bad rap because your digestive system can change pretty quickly. So what you're sensitive to today might change in a month or so. But for me, I just always still felt like, hey, if I'm having trouble today, I want to know what it is and try to make it better. So I just felt that it had a lot of value to it. As I said, people are missing things and they're still not feeling good, and it's very confusing and overwhelming. So to have a test that sort of points you in the right direction can be life-changing.
Is it any different than the test I took at my doctor's office that tests
Yes.
my blood?
Most likely,
for food sensitivities?
So there's 2 kinds of food like allergies. One is mediated by what they call IgE antibodies, and that's like your anaphylactic reactions. So peanuts and shellfish, and people who have the anaphylactic reactions, that's going to show up as an IgE mediated allergy in your blood. So like a traditional allergist will test for those types of allergies. And then you have IgG and IgA and all these other antibodies that are mediated in a different way, but the body still will have a reaction. So there's different ways to test the blood. Alcat tests the white count. in your blood to see how is your white count, your immune system affected by these foods, and they can see how it's changing by the food you're eating. So I don't know what test you got, but I do know that when you go to a conventional allergist and they do the skin prick test and they might do the IgE test, it won't pick up these delayed food reactions or food sensitivities. Delayed food reactions, you can have a reaction anywhere from 24 to 48 to 72 hours later, sometimes a week later. You can be feeling really groggy and tired and you're foggy in the brain. It's those delayed reactions that we struggle with because it's hard to pinpoint where they came from because it's not immediate.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying
Yeah.
that. So
Sure.
at what point did you go from, I want to now get into the pretzel journey. At what point did you go from coaching people to say, enough is enough. I want to create an actual product on the marketplace.
Well, we ran our first grain-free pretzel was made this week. 3 years ago this week was our first production run of our grain-free pretzel. So COVID obviously threw a loop into our timeline. We were delayed with our launch somewhat with COVID, but regardless, so it was 3 years ago that we said well, it really would have been 4 because we had to develop the recipe, but we said let's give this a go, and it was an innovation in technology and materials and really around creating something that our team, because we bake our own products, our team was able to innovate and create this pretzel. And so for a long time, people were telling me that I should have products and I should create, write a recipe book. I used to teach cooking classes. So they would say, make a recipe book. You need to come out with products because you're only one person. But I love the intimacy of working with people. So I loved coaching. I still have people reaching out to me today. I wish you were still coaching. I would love to talk to you. Those things are very important to me. I hope to be able to continue to do that in business and in life, because that's and I will, because it's who I am. But so making that shift was hard because I miss my clients. I miss those relationships. I've sort of transferred it somewhat in our business because I'm in charge of our fulfillment team, our neurodiversity initiative and our fulfillment team. So I work very closely with the autistic adults that we bring in. I love that. I love that opportunity of spending time with them and making sure that they're properly taken care of and that we have the right systems and accommodations in place. So sort of transferred it over there, if you will.
Cool. So back to the a little bit more in the origin story. So it sounds like you had a demand, you had a built up demand. You already owned a co-packing facility at that point?
Right. We already had a co-packing facility and a dedicated gluten-free line. So we just needed to do the R&D on the ingredients and the recipe. And, that includes, the dough, you've got your pretzel dough and the actual process. So a lot of that's proprietary and can't get into it. But again, super proud of our team for making, what we think is the best tasting gluten-free pretzel on the market, that you don't care if it's gluten-free because it tastes so good. So people who aren't having to be gluten-free are really enjoying our pretzel. I would say it almost has like a buttery cracker taste to it. It still tastes like a pretzel. It's got the crunch of a pretzel, but it does have a little bit of a different flavor profile taste to it. So that's about it.
Did you find the cassava flour before you wanted to do the pretzel, or when you're making the pretzel, you tried different ingredients until you find the cassava flour?
We tried a bunch of different ingredients, but I did find cassava flour when I was grain-free. There were some companies that had come out with cassava flour. When they did, it was like this big aha moment for, me and the other families that I knew that were grain-free, because prior to that, predominantly the grain-free flour that people used was almond flour, so ground almonds. And it was lovely, but we couldn't make a pretzel with almond flour. It's just too moist. It absorbs moisture, and I don't think it would be the same end product. So yeah, so that's really, when cassava flour came on the market, I think it was pretty life changing for a lot of people to be able to create better baked goods and whatnot.
Wow.
Tortillas.
And did you just launch with one product, or you with one flavor, or you launched with multiple flavors?
Yeah, when we launched 3 years ago, we launched with just our sea salt, like our core product, and then I started playing with the flavors in my kitchen, just experimenting, and we came up with what we called Suzie Seasoned, and that was our garlic flavor because it was just, the spices I like to use all the time in the kitchen. And then we experimented as an offshoot as well with a little bit spicy. So three very distinct flavors. But would love to come out with some more in 2023. So stay tuned on that. We'll see what the marketplace is looking for and what we can come up with in my kitchen.
And how can you just take us through the basic ingredients of? I know you said a lot of it's proprietary, but whatever you're happy to share. I know some of it's on the label
Yeah, yeah,
itself.
yeah. No, our dough, we make our dough with the cassava flour as, the main ingredient, but we also use some faba bean protein and we use some ground flax. And so those are like the main, dough flour ingredients. And then we do use some sustainably sourced RSPO palm oil because that um, helps the pretzel become a pretzel as well. And that's pretty much it. That's the core group of ingredients. So pretty simple.
Now, it's one thing to make a product, get people to taste it, have it taste good. How did you bring it to the marketplace? And it's not like you could just list it on Amazon and people will order.
Yeah, Amazon's interesting phenomenon, and we did list our product on Amazon early on. We have had phenomenal success on Amazon. Our sea salt pretzel has been very popular on Amazon. The cool thing there is because of Amazon's search engine and things like that, you do get some pretty strong. It is a good way to launch in the marketplace in terms of getting feedback, and also reaching people all over the place. So, we found that to be pretty effective actually. But, our biggest goal with launching was really getting everybody to try our product in whatever way we could. Because once they tried it, we found that most people, if not all people, just really fell in love with the product. So, or at least, were pleasantly surprised at how good it tastes. So, for us, our strategy has really been that, just getting people to taste our product. And we had a strong and reaching our target market, those allergen friendly people, celiac, gluten free people, but also people looking for better for you products. We really have a strong engagement rate on Instagram as well, because we have found that that's where we also started, just reaching out to people, talking to people, learning from people. That's a strong gluten free, paleo, grain free community on social media. So we spend a lot of time interacting with people on Instagram, sending people samples. We have sent out a ton of samples. We send them out pretty frequently on Instagram. So, just getting people to try our product. And because we're in the Northeast, we have had a somewhat of a Northeast focus. But as I said earlier, we are spreading out, and you'll be seeing us out in California pretty soon.
So it sounds like really getting people to just try your product has been your main thing, sampling, seeding, etc.
Yeah.
And who is that a process you manage? I mean, looking at Instagram posts and messaging them and offering samples sounds like very tedious and lots of work.
It's a lot of work. I started out doing it, and then we do have a marketing director who you were in touch with, and also our daughter Kelly's involved in that. So she spends some time on Instagram reaching out to people. So it's a team effort. But we've kept it in house. We're not using an outside agency. The engagement has been something that's important to us. So we don't We have not paid anybody for any posts, and we don't pay anybody to do our posts. So I'm not saying that we won't do that down the road, but it's just been for us a sort of organic grassroots approach, to the whole process, because we felt for us that was how we could reach our target market, through those interactions.
Cool.
Doing expos and things like that. We did the New England Gluten-Free Expo and gave them donated product to that so people could try it. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. So you didn't do any paid ads, but you did pay to go to specific industry expos within your target niche.
Yeah, we've been to the Expo East. And there's a couple other Sweets and Snacks is another expo that we've been to. We haven't had a heavy focus, but we will be at Expo West in March out in Anaheim. I don't know if you go to that expo.
We'll see.
So find us there.
Yeah, if I go, we'll definitely find you there. And to our audience, if you're in Expo West, make sure you stop by Suzie's booth. Savor by Suzie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still a bit more, believe it or not, that I'd love to get to. Do you think your Amazon success, because from what I understand, most people, if you list on Amazon, it doesn't get anywhere, but is it because a lot of people are searching for the grain-free?
Yeah, I think so. I think because of the specific ingredients, people searching for gluten-free, searching for grain-free. Yeah.
That's amazing. What have you done sampling in stores?
We have. It depends on the store and the program. So every store has a bit of a different program. So yes, we have.
Okay. Wow. What other have you done? Any other? I guess I'll say it like this. How did it get your first store, or your first few stores?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that had to do with being at the expos and connecting with retailers there, and also because we've been in the business for a long time. We are familiar with, and we have a team. We have a team of people. Our chief, sales team guys are typically, they've had experience, so they know, they have relationships, and so networking and working on those relationships. And again, post COVID, much easier, because during COVID it was crazy to try to launch a new product. But so, really just leveraging relationships and trusting and doing a lot of sampling has been the key for us. And, and going from there. Yeah.
Did you do consumer products before? Or you only serviced actual brands?
We actually had in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, we had a brand. So we were brand focused. Yeah. And then we sold that brand and had a non-compete, and yeah, so completely different product line and everything else. But yeah, so we have a strong sense of the business in the marketplace. Not to say that we're not still learning. We are, because certainly the marketplace is changing and evolving, and so is the labor force. Yeah, everything's changing. So yeah, but since it's inching closer to 4 o'clock, I'm going to have to head out, Joe. It's been such a pleasure to be with you. So if you have one final question for me, I'd be happy to give it a go.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to our audience again. I'll ask the final question. I just want to thank the audience. This is episode 18 of the Brand Spotlight with Suzie Carpenter of Savor by Suzie. As I mentioned, and we are streamed live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn Live, and we are repurposed as an audio podcast on Google Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcast app. We will do a raffle. Suzie will pick out one of the commenters. In the meantime, just right before that, I want to ask you if you have any parting words, and where can we find you?
Definitely. So I would say, in terms of parting words, it's really, I would lead with autism. If you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. So, spend a little time getting to know other people that might have autism and what they're, what they're doing in the world. They have some unique strengths and unique um, focuses. Where we have a mentoring program that we did an autism grant in April. We gave an autistic entrepreneur a grant fund. We had over 25 autistic entrepreneurs apply, and we are mentoring this individual throughout the year. I'm spending time with them. Our team is spending time with them. Our panel is. It has been transformative and phenomenal. And so, as I said earlier as well, they teach us so much. So I highly recommend, getting to know somebody who has autism, whether it's on social media or otherwise, and see what comes up for you. And you're supporting those individuals when you go to savorbysuzie.com and purchase our products.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Suzie. Do you see the comment Rolodex on the side of the screen where it says comments?
Yes.
You see there's some comments there.
Yeah, excellent.
Would you like to choose somebody now?
Sure. Let's go with Beatrice. She hung with us for a while there.
Yes, Beatrice. Viedma, please reach out to me and we'll ship you a variety pack. Thank you so much, Suzie. It's really been amazing.
Thank you, Joe. Loved it. I hope to see you soon.